The Bibbets is one of the most advanced evolution simulations around, allowing anyone to grow whole ecosystems containing bibbets, actual artificial life forms. Like in nature, their genes and brains evolve through generations to adapt to the environment that they live in. They need to consume food and digest it in order to gain energy to sustain their metabolism, their movements, and to reproduce, competing with one another to pass on their genetic information. It's a project that I've been working on for more than a quarter of my life, continuously improving and adding complexity to this simulation. But this is only the beginning. Welcome to the incredible world of the Bibbets. So you're gonna see that this video is a little different than what I'm used to put out. I just want to draw out an history of the project, basically where it started, what it went through, where we're now, and where it's going. So yeah, I want to take you back like 7 years ago. I was in university and I remember seeing a video, this one. I had just taken a course about AI and basic neural networks and wondered, what if we took a neural network and gave it to an actual life form? I took about a few weeks to put that together and was left with the first prototype. At first, they would have a few senses and a few possible actions, and a network to connect all this. If they managed to find food, then I would create a copy of them with small variation in their neural networks, which would represent mutations, which would lead to natural selection. Throughout university, I would come back from time to time when I had an idea for a feature. So gradually I added things like energy, color, and stuff like that. But eventually it was the end of university and I had to find a real job. I decided to publish a video, my first ever, to be basically a send-off. It was just 1 hour of visuals with some trippy music, and surprisingly it did pretty well. People kept asking me how it worked and to know more, so I decided to take a month to basically learn basic video editing and publish a video on how the system and the simulation worked. This video also did very well, compared to back then. So yeah, that motivated me to keep working on it as a side project in the future. So yeah, I found a job as an engineer and kept working on the project from time to time when I had some. So yeah, over time I kept adding things like the ability to see other bibbets. I also tried my first hand at drawing a brain to try and see how things work. I also added pheromone and published another video about that. And that's also when I started to allow customizing the environment, tying some environmental values to settings so that people could play with it and try different experiments and different combinations and see how that impacted evolution. That's also around the first time I uploaded the simulation on itch.io so that anyone could download and play it. I also added collision to bodies, so bibbets were actual physical entities that could collide with other stuff and so on. That's also the time where I was first contacted by the A-Life 2020 conference to give a talk there, and there's a video of the talk I gave if you're interested. So then COVID happened, and of course that gave me the very original idea of adding viruses to the simulation. There was interesting elements about it, but I'm not proud of the whole system in general, so I disabled it by default for now, but it's still available if you want to play around with it. That's approximately when I started to basically think about being full-time on the project. I was only at 10,000 subscribers, which feels a little preemptive in hindsight, but well, I had some savings and I was very bored about my jobs, realizing that I didn't like engineering at all, at least in the context of the few jobs I had so far. And I believed in the project and myself. So yeah, I took the jump. Starting then, I began to take the project a lot more seriously, and things started to progress a lot faster. I added herding to the simulation, even though apparently no one saw that. I again kept working on the environment so that it's even more complex, and made it so that instead of an homogeneous field of pellets and food, they would be islands and continents and stuff like that, all parameterized. Blah, blah, blah. That's when I released the version 0.3 of the simulation, with lots of improvements, and I also made it possible for bibbets to grab stuff and throw them, which made it more dynamic. I then focused a lot on improving the visuals in general with the procedural sprites. I had the frankly amazing help of Braxtiation, an artist who designed all of the sprites that the bibbets use and how the genes impact different sprites. Their help has been paramount in making the bibbets what it is today. I also started my quest toward unlocking predation in the simulation and allow it to develop itself, or making it possible for predation to evolve by itself in the simulation, instead of hard-coding it like some other projects. That's when the channel also started to take some really good traction. I think the people were very interested and very receptive to the new style, which made the simulation a lot more interesting compared to what it was and how it looked. I added digestion and material simulation, making so that different materials have different properties and so on. Bibbets have their own simulated stomachs, which digest materials and produce energy and potentially other materials. At the moment, there's only plant and meat, but I made sure that the system was pretty versatile and can be expanded. Other parts of the simulation are very much so the bottleneck, preventing me to add more materials and so, but with time, it should be possible. I also added aging, making it so that bibbets couldn't live forever anymore, and published the 0.4 version publicly, making it so that you can all download it. At this point, I was at a crossroad. I could make the simulation more complex, but it was lagging behind in so many other fields. The AI was very much so archaic and, to be fair, cringy. So I decided to focus on modernizing the game, making sure that it had all the important features of a modern game, like saving panels and stuff like that. I added a real menu with a dedicated save and load game and settings and parameters, and I also added scenarios, making it possible to try a few set of curated experiments without having to fiddle with the endless supply of parameters yourself, although you still can. I also gave the ability to modify some of the parameters during simulation, after it has started, and a lot of smaller features to make the life of the user easier. I then held a tournament to let anyone submit their own bibbets that they had either designed or evolved in their own simulations to try and figure out who was the ultimate life form. Well, we have an answer now, so yeah. With so many people running so many simulations in parallel, this was also a very interesting opportunity to learn more about the dynamics of the simulation and what it brought forward. A given set of parameters will optimize for very different bibbets, so with the release of the last video, I published the version 0.5, which had all the features I was mentioning. So yeah, that's where we are now, and it's pretty amazing to look back on everything that it went through. It's pretty crazy to me that every time I launch a previous version, I realize, okay, oh my god, that was shit. It's still not that good, but it's better than it was. And there's also a lot more that I want to do. It's also very much so just the beginning of what I'm envisioning for the project. I don't think you're all ready for what I have in mind. So yeah, just chronologically, I want to take you through what I have in mind for the next few steps. So the last version was 0.5. With 0.6, I want to finish basically the steps I've been taking. I want to add speciation and automatic tree generation so that you can follow the species that develop in your simulation. With this, I think it's also a good moment to bring back sexual reproduction, which was in the very early version of the project, which was never public. Sexual reproduction is a very important part of any life, so I think it just makes sense to bring it back. A feature that has been requested so much, and I agree that is very important, and I don't know why I didn't focus on it earlier. In-game tool that allows you to modify the genes and brain of a bibbet, create your own species, and so on, I think is going to be very powerful. And the last thing with this update would be statistics and graphs. basically allowing you to track certain metrics of your simulation over very long periods. Next, for 0.7, I'm planning on taking the first steps toward a brand new and complete redesign of the genetic algorithm powering the simulation. You see, the present algorithm has so many restrictions and limitations that pretty much so holds back the potential of the simulation. First of all, bibbets have a set amount of input and outputs, which prevents a lot of interesting developments. It's very slow. You can't really evolve new systems from the ground up. So for the last few years, I've been designing a new algorithm called Biome for biologically inspired, open-ended, modular-based evolutionary algorithm. A mouthful, but basically this would allow bibbets to have an infinite amount of neurons, allow them to evolve new senses, new actions, and new systems all together. One of the reasons I put this out so much is that I want to implement this new algorithm in DOTS, a new Unity framework that is very promising in terms of performance and efficiency. It's not there yet, at least not when I'm recording this. Although Unity promises that it's extremely close to being released. It will be extremely efficient, allowing multi-threading. This would allow us to scale the simulation to very impressive levels compared to now. In 0.8, I want to focus on finishing up the biome transition and focus on their vision system, which is one of the main things holding back the simulation in my opinion. Basically, I want to take their vision system and make it its own neural network. That's also one of the things that will unlock all the new materials, like having a more complex topography, maps, rocks, and obstacles and stuff like that, that right now the simulation can't handle. Now in 0.9, I want to focus on environmental simulation, bring heat and seasons and stuff like that in the simulation to allow for more diverse environments inside one simulation. I think this will be extremely powerful and bring an explosion in diversity and complexity to the game. And finally, for 0.10 or maybe 1.0 at this point, I don't know, but plant evolution, which has been very much so requested, but I think there's too many factors that need to consider before making it possible. So yeah, that's basically my roadmap for the project, and I hope that's something that interests you. And it's my plan to keep working toward that end goal. We'll see what comes afterward, but for now, that's the objective. So yeah, just like I took that initial leap of faith to go full-time when I had only 10,000 subscribers, I want to make another one. Basically, I have this vision of the project that I really want to bring to the world, making the most complex and developed artificial life simulation that has ever existed. I want to push the boundaries of what we consider alive. I want real people with degrees in philosophy discussing if bibbets are alive or not. I want to revolutionize life. And all of that are crazy ambitions, I know, but I think that's one of the beauties of the internet nowadays, is that with enough people rallying around an idea and a project, then it becomes possible. So sorry, I haven't been very concrete up to now, but basically I want to start taking this project a lot more seriously. I want to create a studio to host the project and possibly recruit a team of experienced people to help me achieve that vision sooner, better, and faster. I think that's too. For that, I'll have to think a little bit more about how I can make the game profitable in order for me to hire more people. I just want to make clear that the game will always be free, but I might upload it to Steam, where it might be at a small price while still being available on itch.io for free. We might see if merch is the kind of thing that would interest you people. Again, I want to make clear that this is an open discussion. In fact, I just uploaded a poll so that you can vote to help me know what direction the project should go and what other revenue streams should be pursued. To be honest, the community is such a big and important part of the Bibites that it's hard to imagine doing it any other way. From the beginning, the direction of the project and its focus and the new features I've been working on have been shaped by the colleagues. I've been shaped by the community and I want this to continue forward. So just let me know in the comments if you have ideas on how I could grow this project, what kind of things would be valuable to you, and what kind of direction you don't want the project to go at all. This is obviously a passion project for me, but at this point, the amount of people that are interested and that are following the project and participating in the community around it is a big driving force. So first of all, I can't thank enough the Patreons making it possible for me to work full-time on the project. That's incredible. But you all sharing and playing around with the game and giving me feedback and just enjoying the content is incredible. In that sense, one thing I absolutely want to share with you next, the community around the project is truly amazing. One example being the new Bibbit research conglomerate server on Discord that popped off recently. Incredible people playing around with my simulation even deeper than I even thought possible, doing some incredible stuff. I think my next video is gonna focus on letting you know some of the stuff that's going on there, because I think it's too amazing not to share, honestly. So subscribe to the project to follow this incredible journey that we're embarking on, and thank you all for watching. I hope to see you next time. Of course there's coffee in this. No, you can't see.